Welcome, dear viewers and curious souls, to Secrets Behind the Stars, the place where glitter meets truth and the biggest headlines get their final, honest read. Today we're unpacking one of the most startling twists of the season, a reminder that even the brightest names can find themselves under a shadow. We're talking about the abrupt, nearly unbelievable ending of the series that was supposed to redefine primetime drama, Ask V Gozayasai, Love and Tears. Before we dive into the testimonies, whispers, and facts that have shaken the industry, make sure you're part of this family. Subscribe, tap the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive, and if you wish to keep independent voices alive, that join button is there for you. A small click from you, a huge lift for us. Ready to see how even constellations can flicker? The Turkish TV universe has just lived through a tremor that rattled not only die-hard fans and critics, but also those who sit at the decision table. Ask V Gozayasai, the glossy giant introduced with cinematic teasers, opulent sets, and a cast that made social media vibrate, shut down after only 7 episodes. It's a shock ending for a dream that reunited, for the third time, two magnetic forces who shaped an era of television, Çağatay Ulusoy and Hazal Kaya. As hashtags stormed timelines and fan campaigns begged the network for mercy, the production remained sealed off, a fortress of silence. It was within that rising tension that Çağatay Ulusoy finally broke the quiet. His words weren't an apology or a deflection. They were grounded, steady, and laced with a kind of calm that only comes from having weathered storms before. Things like this happen, he said in essence, spoken with the composure of someone who knows there are tides you can't command. You throw your whole self into these journeys. Sometimes the alchemy appears, sometimes it refuses. At the end of the day, viewers decide, and that's how it should be. There it was, the simple truth that echoes louder than any press slogan. In the arena of Turkish entertainment, budgets, fame, and talent do not guarantee safety. Çağatay showed zero bitterness. What he offered instead was acceptance, almost philosophical, in deference to the audience's power. There's no recipe, he said, and almost at once it turned into the sentence everyone repeated in posts and spaces, a quiet motto for a season that humbled a lot of egos. And you, faithful friends of Secrets Behind the Stars, where do you stand on this? Did the viewers judge too quickly, or were there genuine cracks that couldn't be plastered over? Did the electricity between Çağatay and Hazal land differently this time? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we're reading every one. To make sense of how it ended, we need to revisit how it began. From the moment Ask V Gozayasai was announced, the air felt charged. A third reunion between Hazal Kaya and Çağatay Ulusoy seemed like the safest bet anyone could make. Their on-screen story has defined a generation of viewers. They know how to hold the screen together, how to wordlessly fill a scene with a pulse. And this time, the teasers promised a darker, more measured, more adult world. Çağatay looked like a man living with shadows in his chest. Hazal emerged as a modern heroine who wouldn't bend. The scale of the project felt huge, the tempo on set was said to be soaring, and every frame looked carved with intent. But the devil, as always, waited in the margins. The first alarm bell rang at the scheduling stage. The show launched into a brutal slot, facing a reality juggernaut adored by its online fandom and a long-running family saga that devours ratings week after week. Ask V Gozayasai walked into the arena with a disadvantage that few dared to say aloud. The second pain point, rhythm. Audiences who have grown used to the swift pulse of digital platforms and the breezy sweetness of romantic comedies found the storytelling too deliberate, maybe even sluggish. The director reached for a wide lens, for patience and nuance. Many viewers at home reached for the remote. The careful, slow-bloom arcs needed time to be felt, and time is a luxury primetime doesn't always offer. And then came the most delicate conversation of all, chemistry. Fans who have memorized the glow of Çağatay and Hazal in more luminous settings struggled with the chill that their characters carried this time. A chorus began, "We want the lightning we remember." It's one of acting's oldest traps. The public loves you for the things you've already given them, and sometimes punishes you for daring to change the weather. What, then, exploded once the cameras stopped? Rumors, inevitably. Istanbul runs on them. The buzz wasn't about friction between the leads, on the contrary, it was about friction upstairs. Whispers said the broadcaster pleaded for acceleration, for jolt after jolt twists to yank ratings upward, while the writers held the line for a somber, patient tragedy. That tug-of-war, according to insiders, frayed the project from within. Another murmur focused on direction. Creative disagreements in the early block reportedly sparked a tense atmosphere for the first 3 episodes. No screaming matches, no storming off, just the kind of air that grows heavy when visions diverge and the clock refuses to slow down. The outcome, some say, was a final product whose heartbeat never settled into one rhythm. But let one thing be crystal clear. There was no meltdown between the stars. Those close to the set repeat it like a mantra. Çağatay and Hazal stood like anchors as the ship took on water. No scenes of diva flair, no tantrums in the trailers. Just 2 professionals holding each other up, doing the work, and trying to deliver the most honest version of what they were handed. Hazal Kaya didn't release a long statement, she rarely does when the noise is at its loudest, but her stance was unmistakably elegant. Those around her say she was heartbroken, she truly believed in this story. But she didn't aim that pain outward. She wrote notes of thanks to those who showed up every day, shared gentle posts for the crew that kept working until the last slate snapped, and chose gratitude instead of grievance. So why did Ask V Gozayasai fall so soon? Not because it was a broken piece of art. Quite the opposite, the craftsmanship and performances were applauded even as the end credits rolled on episode 7. The problem was timing. It was a mismatch between what the night demanded and what the show wanted to be. Wrong battlefield, wrong weather, wrong hour of the week. A casualty of the season's cruel math rather than a failure of heart. And the future? Don't waste a second worrying about them. The industry moves quickly towards stars who know who they are. Word is, Çağatay is already in talk for a major digital platform drama and a feature that could let his gravitas stretch at its own pace, away from the tyranny of ratings curves. Hazal, meanwhile, is said to have scripts on her table that sing a little lighter and smile a little brighter, a possible return to romantic comedy, the very arena that once crowned her as a queen of timing and charm. If there is a lesson here, it's the one nobody really wants to hear until they need it most. There are no guarantees. Victory never comes prepackaged. And a stumble, however public, doesn't write the last line of anyone's story. It's a pause in a sentence that continues. As Çağatay so quietly put it, you walk forward with trust. Trust in the work, in the audience, in the stubborn process of trying again. Let's rewind, for a closing look, to the moment before the storm. The trailers dropped like thunderclaps. Urban myths grew around specific scenes. The one in the rain, the gaze through the glass, the line that hinted at a past too heavy for daylight. Fans cut together their own edits in hours, trending sounds and impatient captions. Early ratings weren't a disaster, they were fragile, but hopeful. Then the night changed. A reality program ramped up engagement with gimmicks that trended every hour, while that familiar family drama, safe, comforting, consistent, held its ground with iron grip. Ask V Gozayasai, built for slow absorption, took hits all over its body. Inside the writer's room, the dilemma sharpened: speed up and break the show's core, or stay faithful and risk attrition. The call for sharper hooks and cliff edges grew louder from the network side. The creators argued for patience, the kind of long burn you can't fake. Episode by episode, compromises were attempted. But compromise is a fragile bridge, too much weight, and it cracks. Those cracks were felt by viewers as irregular beats, one week meditative, the next week sprinting. Consistency is a language the audience feels even if they don't name it. And yet, through every shift, the grace between the leads never broke. On set, Hazal's empathy reportedly balanced the atmosphere, the quiet kind that keeps departments in harmony. Çağatay's discipline, the way he treats each scene like a new promise, kept the engine humming. Their effort was never the issue. The machine around them was asked to be two things at once. When the end became inevitable, the farewell was muted but dignified. Cast members posted photos from the last day, coffee cups with scribbled names, jackets thrown over chairs, a light stand left humming for a moment too long. Hazal's message, brief and steady, thanked the crew by name. A few lines later, she told the fans she carried their support like a talisman. Çağatay, in an interview that felt more like a conversation than a statement, spoke not with sorrow but with clarity. It didn't land this time, and that's a truth you accept without looking for a villain. The aftermath, if anything, made one thing louder: their star power remains intact. Agencies circled. Platforms called. Directors who had once been uncertain wrote new notes, imagining them in material that breathes at a tempo television rarely can afford. People forget this. Endings often rearrange the board in your favor. They close one door so you can see the window that was open the whole time. Even so, one cannot ignore the ripple effect. Producers will rethink schedules. Networks will think twice before pitting a slow-burn drama against a social media machine. Writers will fight earlier for the right to be what they promised to be. And audiences, perhaps, will come to understand that experimentation sometimes stumbles before it finds its footing. So, where does that leave us? With an ending that arrived too quickly, and a pair of artists who will not be defined by it. With a show that wasn't bad, it was brave, and bravery isn't always rewarded in real time. With a sentence that pauses, then continues. Because it always continues. The next chapter is already being drafted in quiet rooms, with storyboards taped to walls and notes underlined twice. Maybe the next project will be a torrid love story that laughs more than it cries. Maybe it will be a character study that doesn't apologize for being thoughtful, but finds the platform that knows how to nurture it. Here, in this corner of the internet, we'll be watching with you. We'll bring you the whispers filtered through a clear lens, and the confirmations as soon as contracts turn into call sheets. Thank you for staying with us through this detailed unraveling. If you felt seen by this perspective, like the video, subscribe, and keep the bell alive. And remember, the truth is almost always more layered than the timeline suggests. Until next time, on Secrets Behind the Stars.